Hello, welcome to my channel on self-improvement and spirituality in practice. My name is Greicy Hoo, I'm a therapist, and today I'd like to talk about how you attract contrariety to your life. Who doesn't, right? And it's not something that we like to have setbacks because everything we do, we expect to have a good result. We expect things to go well, to go right in our life. But setbacks, contrariety happens, and sometimes very often. Considering the principle that everything that happens in your life has its origin within you, because this is my approach, let's consider a different point of view, basically, to start with. The cause of everything in your life is within you. And it doesn't matter if you know it, if you are aware of it or not. So you better be aware of it. And that's why I'm here to offer a different way of seeing things. Because if you think that you are a poor victim of circumstances, of life, of fate, then there's nothing you can do, because what is a victim is someone powerless, right? That many times
feels wronged.
But if you consider at least the possibility that the cause of everything in your life is within you, then you have a chance to change the effects by working on the cause. And that gives you power. You won't be a victim anymore because you have the power in your own hands to change whatever you are not liking in your life.
That's a big deal.
So I invite you to come with me in this video and consider this different point of view, this different way of seeing things and life. So going straight to the point, how do you attract contrariety to your life? By being against yourself. The principle behind it, everything is energy. So depending on what frequency you are vibrating at is what you are attracting now, or you will attract soon. So it's a matter of coherence. If you are attracting setbacks, things not going the way you wanted, it's because something within you is vibrating against you. It's not only about being negative with yourself, it's being against you, which is much worse. And how do you stand against yourself? People do that
Very often.
without realizing it because they are so unconscious of their inner processes, what they are feeding in their minds, in their emotions, and what they are creating within them and the result in their external life. Well, you are against yourself every time you say no to you and yes to other people. And there is a recent video on my channel that is saying no. Every time you don't say no to someone, you don't put limits, you don't set a boundary when you want to say no, but you just give in to please someone. It doesn't matter your convenience, because there's always a convenience. People are moved by convenience. So every time you don't say no, when you deep inside want to say no, you are against yourself in favor of the other person and their interests, but against yourself. Every time you deny your truth, what is really important for you, your personal ethics, maybe, and you give in again because of some convenience, and you deny your truth to defend someone else's truth or thought or whatever. And why would you do that? To play the good person, to play nice, being on your vanity side. And people do that all the time because they are needy, emotionally needy. They want to be accepted, respected, liked, and maybe applauded by other people. They want to be noticed. So
they kind of sell their souls to the devil.
to please other people
without
considering their inner truth, what they really want to do, how they really feel inside. That's another way of being against yourself. And in this case, you are not necessarily favoring other people. You are on your vanity side. If you want anything from other people, if you expect them to accept you, like you, respect you, or whatever, you are on your vanity side. And consequently, feeding your own insecurity, your low self-esteem, because you consider other people's opinion about you much more important than your inner truth, who you really are, what are your real needs, and what really matters to you, instead of what is important for them. That's the problem with pleasers. They are always in other people's favor and against themselves. Always trying to please other people, no matter if they are not comfortable with that. So if you pay attention to a pleaser's life, just see how many setbacks they attract, they create in their lives. They probably train their inner forces, those intelligences in their unconscious, to work for other people. So every time they try to do something for someone or help someone, the result is good, is positive. But when they try to do something for themselves, it doesn't work. It doesn't go well because their unconscious forces are trained to work for other people only, not for them. And that's very serious. You would see a lot of people that can help other people not only have good results in their lives at work, for example, but help other people prosper. But when it comes to their personal life, they just
can't
take off. If they have any success, it is a small success, not a big success, because their inner forces are trained to serve other people, to help out other people, not work for them. Another way that you can be against yourself is when you accept a lot of bad ideas from outside, from the world, the news, social media, or other people, and you feed those negative and dramatic thoughts and end up with your head full of fear of everything and insecurity. Being pessimistic, always expecting the worst. Another way of being against yourself is to feed guilt.
Guilty.
I talked about guilt in another video. I'll leave the link anywhere in the description, because in that video, I explain the root of guilt, which is the vanity of being a good person, to please God, to receive some benefits in life. What is guilt? Guilt is a pretension of your ego to be a different person, to be perfect, to be better. Someone you have no conditions right now. It doesn't mean you cannot evolve, but right now you are not there yet. But the ego demands you to be different. And every time you don't fulfill the expectations of being perfect or being better, then if you give too much importance to that kind of demanding voice in your mind or in
someone else's
then guilt arises. And when you
accept,
and even feed that guilt, you let you down. You let your soul down. And you put you down, actually. Feeling bad about yourself, not
satisfied,
condemning you and not accepting you, your limits at the moment, at the present. And one of the consequences of feeling guilty is not only being against yourself, condemning you, but in our society, there is like a pair of things that always come together, guilt and punishment. It's something that comes from ancient times of religion. No, for centuries, that idea has been
fed into,
the collective unconscious that if you are
guilty,
of doing something bad, then you need to be punished to compensate that sin or that bad behavior. So it's very unconscious, this process. If you feel guilty, unconsciously, something within you will ask for a punishment to compensate, to diminish that bad feeling. And the more guilty you feel, the bigger the punishment for you to have some kind of peace in your consciousness. And punishment has to do with hurting you, being so against yourself to the point of beating you. And that's one of the reasons someone can be a very good person, but eventually they attract bad things, really bad things to their lives. What would be the reason, the explanation? Well, on the external aspect, they are good people doing good things to other people, right? But you have to consider their inner attitudes, what goes on in their minds, what kind of thoughts and emotions, feelings they are creating within them. If they are feeling guilty for anything because of that pretension of their ego, they will unconsciously and automatically
attract,
a misfortune to compensate that guilt, because deep down they think they have to be punished and they need a punishment
to feel,
better with their guilt. So every time you are against yourself, you will attract things and people against you. That's the logic of the
metaphysics,
of life, how life works, based on universal laws. I didn't
create,
those laws. I've been just studying them for many, many years, how life works, how we create our reality based on what we create inside us. Because if the cause were in someone else, they would be creating the effects, right? They would be having the effects in their lives. So if you are having the effects in your life, that's because the cause is in yourself, not in me, not in someone else. So the principle is when you deny yourself, life will deny you. Others will deny you. If you are against yourself, others and life will be against you, and you will attract contrariety, setbacks to your life. Does it make sense? And here is important to consider one thing. Maybe the guilt you feel is not really yours. You got from someone else. Someone
blamed you,
for something because you didn't fulfill their expectations. And their expectations are their problem, not yours, right? You are not obligated to fulfill other people's expectations. You are responsible for yourself first. But especially emotionally immature people and energy vampires, they like to blame other people when they don't get what they want from others. And that's a kind of emotional blackmail. So they accuse other people of being selfish or being bad or whatever. And if you accept the blame they put on you or the blame they try to put on you, and
Feel guilty.
then you got in their trap. And consequently, your inner attitude will be in their favor and against yourself, considering yourself as a bad person, as have been acting wrong, badly. And then, of course, you negative yourself. And what can you expect to attract in your life if you are negative with yourself? It's not only about having negative thoughts and negative feelings, because thoughts and feelings attract things to our life. No, it's about having a negative inner attitude. And the inner attitude is maybe much more important in creating our reality than our thoughts and feelings. What is an inner attitude? It's like
Clothing.
you wear. It's not a belief, it's
Really?
an attitude, like playing a character that behaves in a specific way. And another way that you can be against yourself is criticism.
Oh no, I hate when I do that.
One thing is when another person criticizes you because they are not satisfied with you. They want to change you. They want to force you to act in a way that would be more convenient to them. So they criticize you. Every time someone calls you,
Stubborn.
see, there's a difference. Only those who try to manipulate you to do what they want, and if you don't do that, they will call you.
Stubborn.
But if you are doing something in a persistent way, persevering, and what you are doing doesn't affect them, your goal won't have any difference to them, then they will call you persistent. They can even compliment you for being so focused on your goals, right? But if what you are doing is not convenient for them and you are persisting on that, they will call you.
Stubborn.
See the difference, the point of view, the convenience, the selfishness. But what other people say is their problem, because you cannot control their mouth, their head, what they think, what they say, right? What you can do, you can manage your own ears, like having filters and not giving importance to BS, they say, right? It's up to you to accept or not a critic from other people. It's your choice. Maybe you can have a convenience to please them because you want something in return, an emotional food or an advantage, a favor. It doesn't matter. But it's always up to you to give importance to what they say or not, either a critic or a compliment. And another thing is you criticizing yourself. That's the way. Because you can have an inner voice in your head that came from outside, like a reflection of someone very critical that you had to live with when you were younger in your childhood, probably a parent. If you had a very critical parent, I'm sorry. If you didn't put a limit to shut up that voice because you were not aware of that. And that's my role here, to make you more aware of many important things. So if you had a parent like that, if you still have a parent like that, it's up to you to shut up that inner voice that came from outside and not allow that critical voice to keep echoing in your mind anymore. And how do you do that? Stop giving importance. Stop caring so much about what that person thinks about you. Stop trying to please that person. Stop being so needy, wanting that
That parent's approval.
you are grown up. Be your own parent. Be a best version of them. to you. That's your duty to yourself. That's your responsibility. You don't need a parent anymore. Maybe your challenge is to be your own parent, the best version you can be. And if you don't know how, you can always try to learn. It's up to you. You need some goodwill. Maybe a good therapy can help you with that in a faster way. That's what therapy is for, to help us deal better with ourselves and others and life. If you have an inner critic that is always against you, always unsatisfied with even small things you do, I think you should consider if that inner critic is an echo of the voice of someone very authoritarian and critical you had to deal with, to live with when you were much younger, probably a child. Or if that inner voice, very annoying, very negative, pessimistic, authoritarian, if that voice is your own voice coming from what I call a sabotaging subpersonality. And there is a previous video in my channel called Sabotaging Subpersonalities. There is one that I can easily identify in a birth chart. The one that I call executioner judge. Extremely authoritarian, always unsatisfied, extremely critical. How can you know if you have sabotaging subs like that? Sabotaging subs are like entities in your psyche working behind the scenes to create our reality. And they can be very damaging to our self-esteem, not only to our life, causing bad situations, but the executioner judge is terrible, very hard to deal with because he's very severe.
And I will add,
The audio of a former episode of my podcast here describing that sub because I think it's important. And it's very typical
of
people who in their birth chart have a challenging aspect between the sun
and Saturn.
especially opposition, which is 180 degrees approximately, and square around 90 degrees. So if you have an aspect like that in your birth chart, you very likely have an authoritarian sabotaging subpersonality like the executioner judge, and you don't have this in your life. Whatever you do, that judge is always criticizing you, never satisfied, and against you. So if you have a powerful sub like that, because all subs are very powerful, because they are in our unconscious and consequently creating our reality. So if you have a sub like that, oh, for them, you are not good enough. And you probably, with that challenging aspect between your Sun and Saturn in your birth chart, you very likely have difficulties with authoritarian figures, starting with your own father. And then you can ask me,
Greicy, how can I know if I have a challenging aspect in my birth chart between my Sun and Saturn?
well, you can go to astro.com and raise your birth chart for free. For that, you will need your birth date, birth time, and birthplace. And then you see the symbol. And I think I will put a
drawing.
here to give an example of that aspect. And if you find out you have a sub like that, you can ask me.
Greicy, what can I do about it? How can I get rid of that sub?
Well, first listen to the description I will leave here at the end of this video, how that sub behaves, okay? And then you can contact me to get my help in dealing to get a peace agreement with that sub. So it will stop sabotaging our life, or at least give you a probation time, because I'm here to help, first with my knowledge. And then if you want to go further and deeper, you can contact me and we can work on it. Okay. So basically, how you attract contrariety to your life. Every time you are against yourself, when you say no to yourself,
by saying yes to other people,
by giving in, not putting limits, when you play the good person, when you play nice to please others, and it doesn't matter what
Your convenience is.
because I'm not here to judge anyone. So it's your life. I have nothing to do with you, with your life. I don't even know you. Another thing, every time you stay against yourself, you are in favor of your vanity, of that emotionally needy person within you. Every time you feed thoughts of fear, you feel insecure, you don't trust yourself, you trust much more other people than yourself. Every time you feel guilty, condemning yourself, every time you criticize yourself, or every time you accept other people's critics, agreeing with them that you are wrong, you are a bad person, you are selfish, you are not good enough. So how can you expect your business, things in your life to go well, to go right, if you are vibrating against yourself? It's a matter of logic, right? Because everything is energy. So this is another video to present a different point of view, to try to help you do better with yourself, others, and life. So I hope it was helpful somehow. And if you want to go deeper in this subject, understand better how your life works, how you are attracting and creating and manifesting things, situations in your life, you can contact me. I'll leave my email down below this video
in
the description. And please don't send me a DM on Instagram because I'm barely there. I go there just to post reels with shorts from my videos here on YouTube, but I am not a social media person. I don't even like social media because I think they steal time. You know, when you realize you spent like 30 minutes, 1 hour seeing silly things and polluting your mind. At least this is how I see them. That's my point of view. I am very
Demanding.
about content, so I don't like to waste my time on social media, seeing a lot of ads and polluting my mind with useless information. That's me. So if you want to contact me, it's much better to send me an email than a DM on Instagram. Okay. Because maybe you don't want to expose yourself in the comments of this video. That's okay. Actually, I think it's better because people expose themselves too much on the internet. I myself am a very private person, so I really value privacy. I hope this video helped you somehow to think more about how you create your own reality without knowing it unconsciously, and maybe you can stop and think how important it is not to be against yourself if you want your things, your business to go right, to go well, to have better results in your life. I will start with the one of the, actually, I think it's the most popular in my opinion because it's so common out there. It's the one that I call executioner judge. His honor is actually really the most popular, and It's so easy to identify. How is this judge? He's too quick to judge
condemn,
and without the right to appeal. And he's also very quick to execute the sentence. He's very serious. I never saw one with a sense of humor. He's also
super,
rigid and uncompromising. For him, against facts, there are no arguments, and he just hates excuse and small talk. If you made a mistake, in case you have this sub, if you made a mistake, even without meaning to, or it doesn't matter really, you have to pay, because he believes in guilt and punishment for redemption. And yes, he is prejudiced and follows a very strict code of moral conduct. And also, yes, he is authoritarian and considers himself as the ultimate authority to define what is right and wrong. And by the way, arrogance is his middle name. In addition to being very hard and demanding with you, he's also hard with other people, which can confuse him with a personality trait. The difference here is that he speaks, and all the time, in your head, always
demanding,
a better performance, like criticizing, condemning you. It's something like this. You do everything wrong. Why didn't you do it like this? Why didn't you do it like that? Oh, this is your fault.
fault,
No, he's not
condescending,
patient or tolerant at all. Actually, he's a doctor in the art of
bullying,
and humiliation. And he doesn't miss anything unnoticed. He knows he's a kind of God in his, point of view. He knows and sees everything, and his sentences are so strict that they are actually cruel. And the more you are lazy, sloppy, undisciplined, braggart, rascal, in the sense of lying and defrauding, and you may even be, or the person may even be dishonest in the sense of unethical. The more the person is like this, the worse, because disrespect and lack of shame to do what is considered correct only aggravate the final penalty. Anyway, so be it, and you have a relentless and fierce enemy watching over you, in search of the slightest slip to open a trial session on his own, because he really likes to judge and condemn anything. And as you can
imagine,
yes, he is an intolerant bore, but someone needs to put the individual with this sub on track and teach him to be a good person. And if dealing with a sub like that in another person is not easy, and you can, I think someone like this, very annoying actually, and dealing with someone like this is not easy, right? Then
imagine,
living with one sub like this all the time inside of you. That is why, if it's any consolation, as much as an individual is boring, critical, and authoritarian with others, know you that he's much worse with himself. And every time I see someone acting like this, so rigid and intolerant, I always think, thank God, I think with my own mind, and I don't think with that person's mind, and I don't treat myself like that person, because, can you
imagine,
you having a voice, an inner voice, non-stop voice, treating you like this judge all the time, judging you, condemning you, it's just like hell. In practice, the person with this feels constant pressure to do it right, to do everything right, not to screw anything, and to be correct and respectable, and otherwise the judge will punish them without compassion, because the judge's philosophy is the most bitter medicine is the one that cures. So as long as the person doesn't get in line and correctly follow his code of conduct and stricter rules, his life will not go well. It's a lot of effort and work for very little result. At the pace, 2 steps forward and 1 back, or even worse, 1 step forward and 2 steps back. And here it's worth mentioning that the sub has not always developed over the subject's current life. Often it already comes from other past existence, as seems to be the case with the executioner judge.
The individual.
Is already born with this well-developed and strengthened and dominant sub. So he tends to attract people who are equally rigid and severe in his past. And because the sun in astrology is related to male figures of authority, it's very likely that someone with this aspect in their natal chart
Will attract.
like a father or husband, a male figure or a boss, as rigid and intolerant like this sub,
The executioner judge.
because this person is
Already.
like this inside of them. Anyway, the origin of
The executioner judge.
seems to be linked to
Experiences in which
the being was criticized and despised and humiliated by someone who played an important role in his life, a role as an authority, such as a parent. Giving a lot of importance to their opinion and obviously getting hurt by this type of psychological abuse, it's very natural that a disappointment with himself and the negative self-image have settled in his psyche. It's very common to have the case of a child being raised by a parent.
With these characteristics.
So the self-esteem can become low due to so many critics and really psychological abuse.
bullying.
The case of the child that is
Raised.
hearing from a parent that he or she is not good enough, not capable of doing great things in life, and won't be anyone, will be ordinary. The child grows up, really believing that they are not enough, that they are inferior, actually. So this is a damage in the psyche, right? And in order to compensate and protect from further damage
From the exterior world.
from other people, the savior, let's say like this, the savior figure of the executioner judge
Emerges.
So this sub will not only be responsible for fixing the individual, straightening him as if he were crooked, but also teaching him what is right and wrong. So he will most likely be approved and accepted by
Society.
in general, since
He was not.
approved and accepted by
His.
main dominant parent. And the job of the judge includes punishing slips himself to avoid suffering at the hands of other abusive people. It's like a young man
Accused.
of committing a crime, living on probation and being closely monitored and watched at all times. It's really a very annoying voice inside of the person, always watching everything, controlling, dictating orders and behaviors. It's very hard to have a sub like this. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, and bye.